Welcome to the Vix the P Pod. My name is Aldrich Tibayan, and I'm the host and one of the speakers for today's episode. The P Pod is a podcast mini-series about some topics in the SDGs. You're here to learn a lot, so without further ado, let's start spreading some knowledge and ideas and get right into the topic of today's episode. So we're back. This time we're going to tackle something that I'm sure will be relatable to a lot of people. Our topic for today is going to cover the fourth SDG, which is quality education. The concept of education has been around for thousands of years. You would think that after all that time, we would have education figured out already. Unfortunately, not all education is made the same. Not everyone gets the same opportunities when it comes to education. Today, though, pretty much all students had to adjust to some kind of shift to online learning. Although some schools have started getting back into the classrooms, there's still a lot of students doing online classes and modules, so this episode is going to focus mostly on online learning. And we're also going to try something new with the P-Pod. It's going to be less of me. We actually have other speakers in this episode, so look forward to that. And before we get too deep into the topic, let's see how some students have been while learning in an online setting for the very first time. I asked some fellow students to submit a few words about their experience, just so we can get kinda a basic understanding of what things have been like. So our first entry is from Nina, a first-year college student. So she says this, quote, "I think that online learning taught me to become more independent and responsible. It also teaches us to manage our time well. My online learning experience may have been tougher than the usual type of learning, but I experienced a lot of things that I never thought I could possibly do. Online class taught us that even after the pandemic, we can still study suitably. In my online learning experience, I can understand how tough it is to learn when you're not in a classroom setting. There are certain topics you still want to know and comprehend, but you don't have enough information or time or resources to do it." End quote. So that's just kind of like a very basic look into some of the challenges of online learning. And personally, I can agree with those words. We also have a little bit from Mia, who's also a first-year college student. Quote, "Because of online learning, I had a chance to spend time with my family, especially my late bedridden grandmother. Spending time with my Lola while taking care of her allowed me to understand and experience what we're learning in the fundamentals of nursing and health assessment, like how to suction the throat and the systematic position changes and stuff like that. This new normal also tested my capabilities in learning to improve. But most importantly, because of this new normal, I saw how dangerous distractions could be in a way that hinders us from recognizing God's love. And praise God, for this new normal, I acknowledge that I'm weak without Him in the center of my life." End quote. So Mia kind of told us about how it can give us a bit more time with family, which is really important. Also the importance of having faith. Whatever you believe in, it's important to keep your spiritual self grounded and strong in the face of challenges. Alright, so now we can get into the actual meaty good parts of this episode. To start, we have Raymond here to tell us a little bit about online learning in general.
Hello, I am Raymond Policarpio, and I am going to be introducing the concept of online learning. Online learning is a new concept of learning that every student, teacher, or any kind of school faculty face nowadays. It started around the first quarter of 2020 when the coronavirus cases have inflicted so much damage to the human race and in the world. But for humanity to survive and move towards the future, education is the key. In fact, students still need to attain their education so that we can graduate professionals to provide for our societies. Online learning now is the key for the students to move forward their education. But until now, both students and teachers alike are facing so many issues, problems, and obstacles in online learning. Now, I am going to share how I became fond of online learning. In my opinion, I think my school, De La Salle Lipa, is the only school that made our online-based learning self-paced, meaning we have asynchronous classes. So, we students do our modules when we want it because it is self-paced. But there's a catch, for we need to accomplish everything before the lock date, the final lock date. Most of our modules are not even graded at all. The only graded assessments are those of the summative assessments and the graded task, which was later implemented during the second semester. During this year, the start of second semester, our school adjusted quite a bit due to having a few synchronous classes with our teachers, and we had deadlines on some of our assessments. Overall, self-paced online learning has relatively low stress, for we can chill and not stress out about our graded assessments. We are also lucky to have 3 attempts on our summative assessments and graded tasks. Yet, some only have 2 attempts, like essays, poster making, and etc. But it is still lucky that we have those attempts. So, if we think we're not satisfied with the score or we can repeat an assessment, we can fix those mistakes by trying on a new attempt.
Awesome, awesome. So, thank you, Raymond. I'm gonna just interject real quick. So, Raymond kind of covered things pretty well. He mentioned about how our school is with online learning and how our system is kind of different since we're more on self-paced learning. So, like, overall, it's been kind of okay. I mean, Raymond and I actually kind of help each other out with our work sometimes. So, things have been kind of going good when we aren't too stressed. Like, of course, stress is still there, but like when we're not stressed, things go great. Anyways, I'm gonna give it back to Raymond real quick, and then after that, we'll get some tips and some advice from Jasmine. So, Raymond, it's back to you.
Now, let's move on to my daily schedule of asynchronous online learning. So for me, during the first semester, everything was chill and relaxed because we can do our modules whenever the way we want it. So it is our choice whether we want to learn. But during the second semester, we face some scheduled synchronous classes with our teachers for consultation or lectures that our teachers discuss for us. Most of our modules have a minimum of 9 hours, but we can study how long and how short the way we want it. So basically, we are still free. But with our second semester, as nursing students, we have our return demos and oral revalida, which we have on our Mondays and Fridays respectively. It also varies on the section or college level of the course. Additionally, this type of learning helps us nursing students to have lectures with our clinical instructors and answer a post-test on cam and then return demo after, or in other cases, an oral revalida. This lasts about a whole day starting from the morning and finishing in the afternoon. Overall, I conclude that this is the safest way we can continue and do online-based learning so that we can continue our studies while being safe at our homes and have a better future ahead of us. So now, let's move on to my fellow podcaster, Jazz.
Thank you, Raymond. Hi, guys, it's Jast, and I would like to impart to you ways we could improve our online learning experience because I know it has been difficult for both teachers and us students. It would be best if the transitioning of face-to-face to online learning be as smooth as possible. First one would be preparing the students for the online experience by providing them tips on time management, goal setting, and planning and prioritizing work. Second would be frequently reviewing learning outcomes. Instructors should explain the purpose of each course activity and connect it to the learning outcomes for the course. Next would be present clear, organized learning materials. Students must be able to easily find their course materials, discussions, assessments, and records. Everything they need should be right where they would naturally look for it. Preventing isolation by increasing the presence of instructors. Students should feel as if the instructor is right there with them. There should be a learning community. Engagement increases when students feel like they belong and are a part of something with like-minded people. Build opportunities for social learning into an online course design. Deliver bite-sized spaced learning. Make course content easy to digest and retain by delivering it in bite-sized chunks. Keep their brains engaged by delivering content in different formats: videos, voice-over slides, audio, text, and panel discussions. Get students to take action on what they've learned. Put the information in context for students. Discuss how they can apply what they have learned by sharing case studies. Provide regular feedback. Feedback helps students feel a sense of progress and rescues them from isolation. Instructors should provide feedback on all assignments with suggestions for improvement and kudos for good work. Lastly, we should make time for fun. Online courses must offer a distinctive and engaging experience. Now, I would like to give tips for students to manage the online learning experience. Don't neglect self-care and self-love. Self-care encourages you to maintain a healthy relationship with yourself so that you can transmit the good feelings to others. It would be better to understand ourselves so that we know our study habits. Next would be to ask for help. Your classmates are always there to help. Teachers are also still approachable. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Next would be to hold yourself accountable. Stop being lazy, though it might be easier to say than done. We should set goals, just get started, and do something. We should practice time management. Without time management skills, you might easily find yourself cramming before classes or handing in assignments. Make a schedule. Figure out how you learn best. Once you've established where you'll learn, think about when and how you will accomplish your best work. If you're a morning person, make time to study the first thing. More of a night owl? Set aside an hour or two after dinner to cozy up to your computer. Lastly would be to actively participate in the course online forum to help you better understand course materials and engage with fellow classmates. Tips for teachers. Teachers from more than 118,000 schools who usually be prepared with lesson plans, hands-on activities, and strategies to deepen relationships with their students didn't have a classroom to attend, but like every day they remain committed and are doing their best that they can. Here are some successful tips to help them make the leap to virtual teaching successful. First would be consider your students' equity of access. Please try to relate to students. Many of your students may not have access to either the internet or a device or will have inconsistent access. Number 2, make decisions meaningful. Great teaching skills will serve you well online. Establish a clear set of learning goals and be transparent about your expectations. Next would be fuel conversations and connections in various ways. Find creative ways to keep students feeling connected to one another by having them engage with each other online. Constructive criticism is a good thing. It is important we are able to communicate with the students in multiple platforms. Post your announcements in various places to make sure students don't miss vital information. Create a social media account for your class. Considering creating a social media account for your students where you can post class announcement, assignment, tips through mini lesson videos, reminders, shout-outs, and encouragement. Last would be to find time for yourself and reflect. Schedule time for yourself to reflect on how the experience is going for you and your student, because we do know that it has been difficult for you also. And a good message and quote is from the Essays and Letters of Seneca. It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. Let us not be too hard on ourselves in these trying times. Thank you.
So that's that. Thank you, Raymond, and thank you, Jasmine. There's always going to be room for improvement in both students and teachers. We're not just learning the topics in our modules, but we're also learning new strategies and routines when it comes to online learning. Obviously, this whole thing was new to almost everyone, since pretty much everyone was caught off guard when the pandemic hit. At least in this past school year, we kind of saw the areas where we can improve. Hopefully, things get better soon and we can go back to classrooms with no problem. But until then, we can focus on making improvements because progress is always a good thing. From here, we can only go forward. So that ends this segment of the episode.